Hello everyone, this is our second video in MATLAB, and today we are going to be showing you some basic commands and functions to type into the command window. So first I just want to show you off, like this is how the software should look like, and let's start putting in some commands. So let's just try 4 plus 4. Boom, answer is equal to 8. So what this does, it creates a new variable called answer and it stores a value of 8 inside. Now let's try 4 minus 4. 4 times 4, which is used an asterisk 4, and 4 divided by 4. Cool. There's an actually special function for divide. So usually when we do divide, we do 8 divided by 4, and that's going to be equal to 2. But we have a new kind of division called a backward slash. So we'll do we'll do 8 backward slash 4. So instead of 2, it's going to give us 0.5. Now the reason why this happens is because instead of dividing 8 by 4, when you use this backslash right here, we do 4 divided by 8. So we have a bunch of functions here. So how do we clear all of these from our screen? Well, there's a function called CLC. You type it in, click enter, and now all of our previous history is gone here. And we still have our variable answer right here, if you can see. So how do we clear the variables? We just type in clear, enter, and now the variables are gone. And say we want to write a variable name. So variables, you can store information such as numbers, functions, and etc. So let's try making a variable x equals 4, and I can see our x is equal to 4 here. Now let's say that y is equal to 6. You could do x plus y, and it's adding 6 to 4 because our x value is 4 and 6, and if you add them both together we get 10. So what happens when we want to clear y? So there's two ways we can do it. One, we can go here, hit delete right here, and then it will delete the variable. Now let's set it back to 6 again. So another way we can do it is actually typing in clear and then y. And what this does, it says clear, and you tell it what function to clear, and it'll clear it from our history right here. So now we type in y, unrecognized function because there's no variable stored to it. Cool. Now what's the next thing we can do? We can also say y is equal to x plus 4, and it'll take the most recent value of x and add 4 to it, and that will be the new y value. And now let's try going back to one of our previous commands. So if you hit the up arrow on our keyboard, you know how there's an up, down, left, and right arrow? If you hit the up arrow, you can go back to previous functions, and you see this little tab that just showed up. This is a history of all the functions I just did. So let's go back to 8 backslash 4, which is 0.5, if you remember. And you could just easily go back and do functions that you just put in really quickly. The next thing I would like to tell you about is how to make a comment. So to make a comment, you just type the percent icon first, followed by, hi, I am typing random stuff, hahaha. So what this does is anything followed by parentheses tells it to say, hey, I'm about to write a comment, please just ignore what I'm about to say. And what this is useful for is when you're writing code, you want to tell everyone after you, like, what's this code's doing. So if I wanted to write %, this is a weird division, followed by 8 backslash 4. People when reading this could go back to this and say, hey, someone wrote a comment here, and this is important. Alright, the next thing I'm going to go over is how to see like help for a function. So say I didn't know what 8 backslash 4 is. So I can copy this, or I can just get the function right here. So you see this backslash? I can say help backslash. And it'll bring up a whole window on how to troubleshoot this and like what it is. And it tells you back is the left matrix drive, and it tells you a bunch of information you need. So if you ever get stuck with any of these operators or functions I'm about to go over even, it'll tell you about it, and you can actually search the documentation as well on the top right. You can ask for help on backslash, and it'll bring up a whole article in a different window, which you can't see because it's not on the MATLAB. There's also another function we could do, which is factorial. So factorial, you write factorial, and in parentheses you would write a variable or a number. So you can write x, so find the factorial of 4, which is 24, or you can press the up arrow to go back here. We could do factorial 4, and we'll see to get the same answer. So if you want to see like if you want to see more information about these variables you have stored here, you can also write format debug. So what this does is basically it turns your MATLAB, or it turns this little command window into a debug window. I spelled it wrong. And if you spell something wrong, MATLAB it automatically corrects it for you sometimes, and it tells you how you should have spelled it. So if you type in format debug and click enter, it enters debug mode. It doesn't say anything immediately, but before, if we would type x, it would say x is equal to 4. But now if we type x, it says x is equal to 4 right here, but it also gives us some new information, such as our structure address, which is the little script that it's stored in, as well as some information about its matrices. So you see m is equal to 1, n is equal to 1. So this means column 1, row 1. And if you double click on the variable we just typed in right here, you can see that there's a little graph, and this sounds really complicated right now. And this is because MATLAB is basically a matrices program, but we'll go over that later. And also it gives us a little line of text, more information about it. But if you go into debug mode, you basically get 3 pieces of information: the column, the number, and the storage place, as well as the value. So let's clear this from our screen, and let's go back to the normal format, which is format short. And now we're in short format. So now if we click x is equal to 4, as we originally had, and this is the default option. So there's some. So if you want to store another variable instead of x, say you wanted to store a variable yippee is equal to 4. Oh wow, we're allowed to have variable names that are more than 1 letter. Unlike math, we can have variable names that are like 5 letters, 10 letters. What is the actual max length? So to find that, let's type in name length max, and the answer is 63. So MATLAB has a maximum variable length of 63 characters. So let's see how long we can make it. So this is 10 characters. If we copy and paste it, copy, paste 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So 60, this is 60 characters. Let's store 4 in it. So let's try, so it works. This is a variable name, and it stores the number 4. Let's try this again, but let's add 1, 2, 3, 63 characters. It still works. Let's try this one more time, but add another character. Oh no, it doesn't work. This is because the maximum length was 63, and we just made a 64 variable name. So this is something you could play with in MATLAB, but we're not going to go over it right now because it's not that important. You're probably not storing variables this long anyways. So let's go to the next function I have on this list, is keyword. So if you want to create a variable name, there's some limitations to what you can make. So by typing this function is keyword, these are all the names you cannot call variables. And this is really useful when you're making variable names, because say I want to have a function break, which is the first thing on this list. Say I wanted to have break as a function, break as a variable. Break is equal to 4. Oh no, it doesn't work because it gives you the reason why. But basically, you cannot use break or any of these other characters as a variable name. So if you want to see if your variable name will work, let's see if this variable name would work. So let's see. To find if a variable name already exists, what we'll do is we'll type help followed by exist and then our variable name. So this is exists in x. Exists x not found. So that means in the MATLAB software that x is not found as a variable. So how do we see if a variable exists in MATLAB? So this function exist will help us find it. So this function is a little bit complicated just because when you type in exists followed by a variable, so let's see if the x variable exists. Obviously we know that this variable exists, so let's see what happens. Exist x, the answer is equal to 1. Oh, that's weird. It gives us a number, so does it exist or not? So to find this out, we would type in help exist, and then remember this help thing right here? It tells us what the numbers mean. So existX came back with the number 1. So let's look at the number 1 on this chart. Number 1, if name is a variable in the workspace. So yes, this checks out. Number 1 basically means that the variable exists, and it does. Okay, let's try exist hi. There's no variable named hi, so the answer is equal to 0. If we go back to here, the name does not exist. Okay, let's look at our next function. Who. So by typing who, it gives us every single variable we have in the sheet. This is very useful when looking at to see if you have a variable or not, or you can look at this panel right here, but sometimes people don't have it up, which is why this is useful. Now if you type in whos, it lists every single variable and their data associated with it, including size, bytes, class, and attributes. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys found this really useful. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.